When it comes to horror movie monsters, the old school days of practical effects work gave us a whole lot of cool creatures to watch. Whether it be the werewolves in The Howling, Stan Winston's work on The Queen and Aliens, or even the monster from The Relic, design work and execution was on point back in the day. And it made for some of the most memorable movie monsters big time fans can think of, but sometimes you get monsters that are cut from the final release, and today's creature design is one that I think a lot of people would have had fun with had it been included in the movie like it was originally intended. So believe it or not, one of the scariest slasher movie villains ever made happened to have a really dark creature design to represent him in what was at the time supposed to be his last movie. Now, full credit for this information on the cut monster comes from my friend Tony from the YouTube channel Hack the Movies, where he went over the work print version of a Friday the 13th film from 1993 that really surprised me. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, featured special effects work by K&B, who fans of this channel may recognize as the team that helped bring the Predators to life in 2010, and their creation of the quote Jason monster or Jason demon happened to have that same level of awesome detail like what you would see in the third Predator film, or really anything that they've worked on. This wild looking guy happens to be how Jason was supposed to look in the film during a pivotal scene in which crazy bounty hunter Creighton Duke happens to help a couple battle the slasher icon towards the end. But you see, during that moment of the film, the final cut of the movie only has him turning into this little slug demon thing that doesn't get very big at all, but originally Jason was supposed to grow into this massive monster before making that final transformation back into his ordinary self. Now, the reason I think this design is so interesting, and dare I say, one of the coolest things in Jason Goes to Hell, or the Friday the 13th franchise in general, is because the creature just looks so unique and gnarly compared to literally everything else that slasher movies were doing at the time. You know, at this point in the series, Jason only got crazy looking whenever he was unmasked, but here, you get an entire monster design that feels like a totally different thing. And that's because the initial idea was that this was supposed to be from a totally different thing. Something that makes this creature so cool is the fact that director Adam Marcus confirmed back in 2017 that Jason Goes to Hell is actually in continuity with the Evil Dead series, which I always kind of knew anyways because of the Necronomicon literally showing up in the movie, but that Book of the Dead is basically said to have been what caused the supernatural stuff to be so prevalent in Friday the 13th that we'd seen. He stated, quote, Pamela Voorhees makes a deal with the devil by reading from the Necronomicon to bring back her son. This is why Jason isn't Jason. He's Jason plus the Evil Dead. There's a whole scene that includes the book, and I hoped people would figure out that's what I'm up to. So yes, in my opinion, Jason Voorhees is a Deadite. He's one of the Evil Dead. Groovy. Now, what makes this information even more interesting to me is the fact that at the end of the movie, Freddy Krueger is the one that actually yanks Jason's mask down to hell when he gets defeated. So you've got a lot of horror movie stuff going on here. Evil Dead, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. There's all kinds of stuff going on in this little film. Now, personally, I think the monster version of Jason from this movie is one of the most interesting and fun aspects of the film that we unfortunately never got to see. We did get the smaller slug-like version, but just imagine what this wild full-grown creature would have looked like had it been completed and made available on a director's cut release or something. And like I said at the beginning, full credit goes to Tony for filling me in on this information because no joke, I had no clue this was even a cut effect from the film. He does a great job at going over the work print version, and I'd highly suggest checking that out if you're a fan of this monstrous design as well.
It's either from Evil Dead 2 or Army of Dark. No, it's Evil Dead 2, I think. So I think Sam Raimi gave them the props, and the guy who made the props was like
it's K&B.
Yeah, but the guy who like made it was like
Tom Sullivan
was really upset that they used it for the movie.
Oh no
Really?
shit.
And apparently like Sam Raimi had to write like an apology letter to him.
Oh.
Anyways, guys, those are all just my own thoughts on the unused monster version of Jason Voorhees from this old slasher film in the 90s. What did you think of the design, and what are your thoughts on the final film they made? Whatever those opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below.